a new face here on Cityline. Textile designer Candice Kaye. And instead of me explaining what she does, why don't I let her show you?
This was a bespoke print that we did for a restaurant in Montauk, New York, and we turned it into fabric. So and this was done for the upholstery on the banquettes in the main room. This is one of my favorite restaurants. I don't know if I can say that, but I just did. You can see my prints in restaurants like Planta Queen, Baddies, Biblos, Mary B. And sometimes it could just be a simple repeat, which is really tight, or it could be something that's a mural, and it's sort of spread up the entire wall, which means there's no repeat. It's just one big piece of artwork. Then I have collection work, which is something that you could see on my website, and that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be showing you one of my first prints that I ever did while I was in school in New York City, and it was the first rose I ever painted. It was the first print I ever created, and it's actually one of my best sellers. So I first draw everything on tracing paper, and then I take elements from the tracing paper and I transfer them onto watercolor paper, and then this is where I paint. And from here, I transfer whatever I painted onto my computer, which is where I do my repeat and stuff. And then you create something like this. And this is a 27-inch repeat, and essentially what that means is that when this panel is repeated this way, it's going to match exactly. So this is an example of the file that I would send my supplier, and they would repeat it for me in panel for it to go on your walls.
Such incredible work. And Candice joins us now to share a lesson on mixing patterns, color, and scale. And she is not afraid. We are starting with a pattern-heavy look, right, Candice?
Yes, mixing pattern is so much fun and it's so easy. And I'm going to give you some tricks today that you can do at home. It's not daunting at all. To start, one of my favorite places to mix pattern in a home is in your powder room. One of the areas that is sort of hidden, it's like a secret in your house, and the biggest trend right now is going up the walls and onto the ceiling.
That sounds so dramatic. I love that idea, and it looks great. I'm just wondering, what about mixing pattern in a larger room where you might have a rug in there too? How do you do that?
There's two things that I want you to think about when you're mixing something in a room that involves a rug and fabric and wallpaper, and that is scale and color. So I'm going to move you into the busy area. We're going to do 3 different ones today. So all 3 of these rugs are from my capsule collection with CB2. And this one is the Capulet rug. And I took the same flower and I put it on the walls. And this is as matchy-matchy as you'll get. But one of the things you should think about when you're doing something as matchy-matchy as this is the color. And what I mean by color is the tone. So this I used cool tones. If you're doing warm tones, I would sort of stay within that family, because then it gets a little bit too busy, and that's just the easiest way to keep it harmonious within a room.
That's right. You want to be able to tie it all together, which is great. What about scale, Candice?
Scale is a funny thing, but it's really fun once you get a hang of it. So if you can see here, the scale on the wallpaper is slightly bigger than the scale on the carpet. And that's super important to remember when you're doing something as heavy pattern as this, because if you did something all one scale, it would look like really dizzy and really busy, and you don't want that in your home. You want it to feel relaxed. And if you mix the scale, you create depth. So either you can do a super large scale carpet and then a little scale on the walls. Then I paired it with this really fun watercolor zebra print. And now I actually would reupholster my couch with this, and it would still look good. And I picked like a cooler tone, not cooler, like a simpler tone. And it's not as heavy as the floral. So it's more stripy. It gives some variation in the pattern that we're creating. Or if you don't want to reupholster your couch, you just want pillow, These are super fun, and it gives you that like beachy feel, and these patterns would look so well together in a room.
Okay, I'm glad you talked about those pillows because we are living in Canada, and I find that our design aesthetic, while we are getting a little bit more brave, there are many of us that are afraid of mixing a lot of patterns. So what advice do you have for the ones who are scared?
It can be daunting, and maybe you don't even like wallpaper. Maybe you don't want anything on your walls. Maybe you love a really simple room, but you want a facelift. The easiest and the fastest facelift I can tell you today is a rug. This here is the L'Oreal rug, and it's full of color and full of floral and full of pattern. And then I literally just paired it with a simple pink velvet pillow. And it's so simple. It's the fastest facelift.
Good tip there. And the last thing you wanted to talk about was texture. What can you tell us about that?
So there's two different options. This rustic wallpaper is a client I did in LA, and I paired it very simply with the feline rug. So it's a cheetah print, and it has like a subtle dark blue and white. If you're wanting something much more toned down, very tone on tone, you would do this color palette. So this sample here is this rug, but it's silk. So it gives you that really nice shine on the floor. And then instead of having just white walls, you can do something with a rustic finish, and it just gives you that depth to the wall, the same way that concrete does actually, but it just gives you this really natural depth to the wall and brings warmth and feeling to the room. And then I paired it with these really beautiful leather. So these leathers you could reupholster, you could do your pillows in, and it's a really fun, easy facelift in a home that maybe is a little bit too white.